In 1872, the President of the United States was arrested for speeding. What happened next reveals a lot about accountability law and what it really means to be in charge.
We could use that as a trailer.
Yes.
You could have like a fancy video.
Yes, we should. The day a president was arrested.
Presidents are supposed to uphold the law, but what happens when they break it?
And not like top secret files in your bathroom break it. I mean, like going too fast in your horse-drawn carriage.
Today we're talking about a story that's both ridiculous and important. The day Ulysses S. Grant, the 18th President of the United States, was arrested by a D.C. police officer for speeding on a horse.
And more importantly, what does it mean when the most powerful person in the country is held accountable? What can we do when a president crosses the line?
Today on Time Tellers, we rein in the reins and explore a surprising story of justice, humility, and horsepower.
Am I allowed to go off script? I'm just wondering if Grant was drunk. He had an alcohol problem.
Well, you always go off script anyway. But now you missed your opportunity.
Oh.
Because how would I edit that in now? I am recording, right? Okay, yes, I am.
Okay, let's set the stage. It's 1872. Grant is midway through his second term. Remember, Grant was a Civil War hero, national icon, and also kind of a speed demon.
Not in a Mustang or Corvette, but in a horse-drawn carriage. He was known around D.C. for tearing around the streets with his team of horses. Reckless, fast, and honestly kind of dangerous.
Now, D.C. wasn't exactly built for Formula One. Pedestrian, kids, carts, random livestock. It was chaotic, and dangerous drivers were a real problem.
So the D.C. police force had started cracking down, and one officer, William H. West, a black Union Army veteran turned patrolman, was especially serious about keeping the roads safe.
So basically he got to arrest his former boss?
Yeah.
Nice.
One day, Officer West sees his team of horses barreling down M Street at an unsafe speed. He steps out, waves it down, and who's holding the reins?
President Grant.
Now, this isn't their first encounter. West had stopped him the day before and warned him about speeding.
Oh, dear. And now here he was again, flying down the road like it's the Kentucky Derby. So West does something unthinkable.
He arrests the sitting president of the United States.
Grant doesn't throw his weight around, doesn't pull rank. He reportedly looks at West and says, "Do your duty, officer."
Grant is taken to the local police station, booked and fined like anyone else.
Imagine that happening today. A police officer stopping a president mid-motorcade and writing them a ticket.
And the crazy part? The officer who did it wasn't punished. He was praised for it. The press even ran with the headline, "The President Arrested."
Awesome, but if they did stop the motorcade, the presidents don't normally drive the motorcade.
They're not allowed to.
So who would actually get that ticket?
Well, but I mean, it could just be for a warrant. You know, they'll just show up wherever. So let's take a breath here, because we just talked about something amazing. A sitting president of the United States arrested like any other citizen. And not just any president. This was Ulysses S. Grant, the general of the Union Army, Civil War hero, and one of the most famous people on the planet in 1872.
This moment isn't just funny, although maybe not funny, haha. It's not just some footnote. It's actually a masterclass in accountability. The idea that no one, not even the person sitting in the highest office in the land, is above the law.
And here's the thing. Grant didn't argue, he didn't shout, "I'm the president," or claim the arrest was illegal. He reportedly looked at Officer West and said, "Do your duty."
Can we just stop and appreciate how rare that is? In that moment, the president wasn't the commander-in-chief or a towering public figure. He was a citizen, a man who broke a rule and took the consequences.
Now, contrast that with how we tend to view presidential accountability today. We usually think of one big word.
Impeachment. Which is kind of ironic because impeachment isn't really about everyday law breaking. It's not about parking tickets or even speeding carriages. It's about abuse of power, the really serious stuff.
Impeachment is written into the Constitution. Article 2, Section 4 says a president can be removed from office for treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors.
The phrase high crimes and misdemeanors has confused people for 2 centuries. It doesn't mean speeding or jaywalking. It refers to serious violations of public trust. Things like abusing your office for personal gain, undermining elections, lying to Congress. Clinton, anyone?
The impeachment process starts in the House of Representatives. If they vote to impeach, it's kind of like an indictment. Then the trial happens in the Senate. If 2/3 of the Senate votes to convict, the president is removed.
But that threshold is high, and impeachment is messy. It's political, it's dramatic, and it's incredibly rare. Only 3 presidents have been impeached in American history: Andrew Johnson, Bill Clinton, and Donald Trump. Twice so far. So much for winning?
And none of them were convicted. Nixon, he resigned before the Senate could vote.
So in practice, impeachment is kind of like a safety glass behind emergency brake glass. It's there, but you don't really want to use it. Also, does this say how, that impeachment is not actually removal from the office?
Somewhere.
Okay. It's just the
process of starting it.
Okay. Because most people don't know that. They're like, he was never impeached because he was never removed from office. Well, that's not what it means.
No, I know that.
I just didn't know if this was in there.
I don't remember if it's in here, but I know that. Most people should know that.
Okay. But in case impeachment is the process to get a president removed, it doesn't mean they have actually been removed.
Yes. So where does this leave us? If impeachment is rare, the prosecution of sitting presidents is even rarer. How does a democracy actually hold its leaders accountable?
That's why the story of Grant matters so much, because here's a moment where none of the normal barriers were in place. A patrolman sees a president doing something dangerous, and he acts immediately. No committee, no grand jury, no endless legal debate.
It's just the law applied equally.
And Grant doesn't fight it. That's key. He honors the law, even when it applies to him, especially when it applies to him.
And that moment tells us something huge. It's not just the laws that keep a democracy healthy, it's the willingness of people to follow them, even when they don't have to, especially when they're powerful.
Maybe not so much don't have to, but could get away with not.
Yeah.
It's easy to lap the idea of a speeding ticket for a president. But this wasn't just a guy going too fast. It was about risk. Horses are big, unpredictable. You speed a carriage through a crowded street and someone could die.
So Officer West wasn't just enforcing a rule, he was protecting people, and doing so in a city where politicians, lobbyists, and yes, presidents routinely broke the rules.
It makes you wonder, would that happen today? Could a regular officer stop a sitting president, find them, and then be praised for it?
Honestly, probably not. We're in an era of legal shields, executive privilege, motorcades, Secret Service bubbles. If a president ran a red light today, it'd be a staff problem. They would vanish behind layers of PR and bureaucracy.
That's kind of a shame, because what West and Grant gave us was a vision of what government could look like when it works.
It's not perfect, but it's grounded. It says the office doesn't make you untouchable, it makes you responsible.
With great power comes great responsibility?
We can't say that. You just got sued.
Okay. Here's the big idea. Power without accountability is dangerous. And accountability without respect for the law, it doesn't work.
What Grant did by accepting his arrest, paying his fine, and showing respect for the officer, it's not just a cool historical anecdote, it's a blueprint.
Sort of like when Washington stepped down after 2 terms in office.
Yeah, when he refused to become king.
Mm-hmm. A reminder that being powerful doesn't mean being immune, that public service is about humility, not superiority.
And maybe that speeding ticket was the most presidential thing he ever did.
Anyway, break over. We need to talk about Officer William H. West, because this guy was kind of a hero.
A formerly enslaved man, he served in the Union Army during the Civil War, then joined the D.C. police force.
He was known for being serious, calm, and committed to justice. Arresting the president? That was just another day on the job for him.
And Grant respected that. There's no record of him being upset, no retaliation, just a fine and a nod.
And West never cashed in on his fame. No memoirs, no tours. He just kept doing his job.
Now let's zoom back out in case you tuned out during our little
history lesson.
Yeah, our little history lesson. So here's the short form. How often does a sitting U.S. president face any legal consequence?
Not often. Nixon resigned before impeachment could finish, or even start. Clinton impeached but acquitted. Trump twice impeached, never convicted. And Johnson also impeached but not convicted.
Okay.
He's a little farther back in our history.
Yeah, I was going recent memory.
Yeah.
And those are all political processes. They're long, dramatic, and polarized.
But Grant, he got pulled over and he paid a fine like anyone else. And weirdly, it makes him feel more presidential.
In a moment of humility, a reminder that leadership means being accountable even for small things, maybe especially for small things.
So the next time someone says no one is above the law, remember this story. A president, a patrolman, and a speeding carriage in D.C.
Ulysses S. Grant might have commanded armies, but he still got ticketed for going too fast with a horse.
And Oliver? Yeah. And also, I'm so sorry, we almost made it through. And Officer West, he upheld the law without fear or favor. That's the kind of civic backbone history needs more of, and so does modern day.
Thanks for joining us on Time Tellers. What's your favorite forgotten moment of presidential history?
And if you ever get pulled over, just remember, you're in good company.
We'll see you next time.
Bye!